Nobody in this world ages past 25. The moment the clock in their arm activates, life becomes a countdown. Every second spent breathing costs time. Every meal, every bus ride, every mistake steals minutes away from survival. The poor walk fast because stopping means dying. People don't dream about houses or fame anymore. They dream about waking up tomorrow. And somewhere in the middle of crowded streets and exhausted faces, Will realizes the terrifying truth. Human life was turned into currency long ago. The factories never sleep. Machines scream through steel corridors while workers stare at glowing green numbers on their forearms like prisoners watching execution timers. Nobody wastes words here because conversations cost energy and energy costs time. A man collapses beside the conveyor belts and people barely react. They've seen this too many times before. In this city, death isn't shocking anymore. Will runs through crowded streets with panic burning in his chest, desperately trying to reach his mother before her clock reaches zero. Neon lights blur around him while strangers move out of the way without emotion. Nobody stops to help because everyone is racing against their own ending. His mother smiles, even while fear shakes in her eyes, trying to comfort him in the middle of disaster. But time moves too fast. 1 second too late becomes forever. And in that heartbreaking silence, Will loses the only person who made this world feel human. Far away from the desperation of lower zones, the rich live inside quiet towers filled with gold light and artificial peace. A wealthy man sits alone with more than a century on his clock, yet his face carries no happiness. Endless time has drained meaning from his existence. Nothing surprises him anymore. Nothing feels urgent. He watches the poor fight for scraps. Then everything changes in a single moment. The stranger grabs Will's arm and transfers decades into his clock without hesitation. Years flood into his body like electricity. More time than he has ever seen in his life suddenly belongs to him. The city around him feels different now. Slower, lighter. For the first time, he isn't suffocating under fear. But freedom comes with questions nobody wants answered. If one man can give away a lifetime so easily, then maybe the system was never built from fairness, only control. When Will enters the wealthy district, it feels like stepping into another universe entirely. The streets are spotless. Expensive cars glide silently through glowing avenues while people laugh without checking the clocks on their arms. Nobody runs here. Nobody panics. The rich move slowly because they have enough time to waste. Every building shines with luxury stolen from desperate workers below. And as Will walks deeper into this beautiful illusion, anger quietly begins replacing grief. Inside glittering casinos and crowded parties, the powerful gamble away years like chips on a table. Entire lifetimes disappear over drinks and applause while the poor die for minutes in the streets below. Every smile feels rehearsed. Every conversation sounds hollow. These people build a kingdom from fear, convincing millions that survival must always be earned. But Will doesn't belong here. He carries pain they can't understand. And beneath his calm expression is a storm waiting for the perfect moment to tear their world apart. Sylvia watches Will carefully from across crowded rooms filled with luxury and lies. At first he seems reckless, unpredictable, maybe even dangerous. But the longer she looks into his eyes, the more she notices the sadness hidden behind his anger. He isn't fighting for greed. He's fighting because something inside him broke when he lost his mother. In a world where everyone protects their own survival, his pain feels strangely honest. And for the first time, Sylvia begins questioning the reality her father spent years defending. Sirens explode through the city as timekeepers chase Will across neon streets soaked in rain and fear. Crowds scatter while glowing clocks flash like warnings in the darkness. Every alley feels tighter. Every second feels heavier. The system has labeled him dangerous because he refuses to stay obedient. Helicopters search from above while armed officers close in from every direction. But the more they hunt him, the clearer the truth becomes. Power was never afraid of criminals. It was always afraid of people waking up. Something changes inside Will after witnessing the cruelty hidden beneath the city's elegance. He stops running out of fear and starts moving with purpose instead. His anger sharpens into determination. This fight is no longer about revenge or survival. It becomes something bigger. Every stolen minute, every innocent death, every terrified worker trapped inside the system fuels the fire growing inside him. And for the first time, the people in power realize they are facing someone who has absolutely nothing left to lose. Cars slam into barriers while shattered glass rains across empty streets, glowing beneath city lights. Chaos spreads faster than anyone can control it. Yet through all the destruction, one thing never changes. The clocks keep ticking. Seconds continue disappearing from every arm in silence. Nobody escapes time, no matter how rich or powerful they become. The system promised immortality to the elite, but fear still controls them all. Because deep down, everyone understands the same terrifying reality. Eventually, every countdown reaches zero. Sylvia finally sees the truth her father spent years hiding behind wealth and elegance. His empire wasn't built from intelligence or hard work alone. It was built from stolen lifetimes. Every luxurious building, every expensive suit, every perfect celebration came from the suffering of people trapped below the economic line. The realization destroys something inside her. She can no longer pretend ignorance. Together, Will and Sylvia become symbols the system cannot fully erase. They move like ghosts through banks, checkpoints, and guarded facilities, stealing time from the powerful and giving it back to desperate communities. Crowds gather in disbelief as glowing numbers suddenly appear on exhausted arms. People who spent years surviving hour by hour finally breathe without panic for the first time. Hope spreads rapidly through the city, and hope becomes dangerous the moment people realize fear was the chain keeping them obedient all along. The streets erupt with emotion as thousands of glowing clocks light up the darkness like stars returning to a dead sky. Workers stop rushing. Families embrace each other without staring at countdowns every few seconds. The city feels different now, almost alive again. The rich watch nervously from behind glass towers while the balance of power slowly begins shifting beneath them. Because once people experience freedom, even for a moment, they become impossible to control completely. Panic spreads through the upper class as their perfect system begins collapsing under its own cruelty. Banks tighten security. Timekeepers flood the streets. The powerful grow desperate because fear is slipping from their control. For generations, people obeyed because they believed survival depended on submission. But now the illusion is breaking apart in front of everyone. The poor are no longer begging for extra hours. They're demanding dignity. And that change terrifies the elite more than violence ever could. In the end, nobody truly wanted immortality. They only wanted enough time to live without fear crushing their chest every morning. Enough time to fall in love. Enough time to hold family close. Enough time to feel human before the countdown ended. The tragedy was never that the world lacked time. It had plenty. The real tragedy was that a handful of people decided who deserved to keep living and who didn't. And once humanity itself becomes currency, compassion is always the first thing to die.